Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Who?
Today we're bringing you some more Carian troops. These troops are the Leleges, who are the indigenous population of Caria.
I thought I said they killed them all.
No, they didn't kill them all, they conquered them.
Oh, right. Same thing.
Yes. Caria is very much like Sparta, well, was very much like Sparta. You know, in Sparta you had two races of people. You had the Greeks, who were the Spartans, and then you had the, what do they call the lower class?
Peasants.
Yeah, peasants. I can't remember the name of them now, sorry, my brain just melted. Then you have the lower class people who were the local inhabitants of the area. They were not Greek. They were... The Spartans conquered the land.
Yeah, they weren't Aryan enough for the Spartans.
Yeah, looking at it that way. Yeah, they weren't the correct type of people.
Yeah, definitely with them type of people.
And so they were a slave race who lived under the Spartans, and you know all the story about that. We will be going into some of the details later with our Spartan videos. But for the Carians too, they were Greek colonists who invaded Caria, conquered the land and enslaved the people. They literally enslaved the people, as in they didn't put them in chains. They just said, all you people, you're second-class citizens, you're not us. You're not one of us, therefore you are going to be our slaves. You're a slave race from now on. Now, as time went on, obviously the interbreeding went on, and eventually you could not tell the difference between a Lelegia or Carian. You couldn't tell the difference, and
therefore they're not pure.
Yeah, and various Greek commentators said, I can't tell the difference between them. They look the same, and even for them, it was quite hard for them to tell. But certainly earlier on, it would be obvious who was a true Carian and who was a Lelegia. So the Leleges were sort of the indigenous population. They weren't allowed to own land, unlike the Spartans actually. The peasants in Sparta were allowed to own land. It was the Spartans who weren't allowed to own land. So the Spartans were not allowed to own property or wealth, whereas the peasants were the only ones who could. Slightly different in Caria, they weren't allowed to own their own businesses. But they could own their own businesses, they couldn't own land. So only the Carians could own land. And of course, with this huge population that the Carians had, and given that they are technically enslaved, people don't like being enslaved if you don't treat them nicely. And because they were oppressed, just like in Sparta, they rebelled on a regular basis, and there were quite a few really bad revolts by the Leleges against their Carian overlords, and it became a mess, really, it really did. Artemisia was actually instrumental in putting down one of the rebellions and reuniting Caria. So these troops will fight in the Carian army. They would probably pick the best, fittest, most able-bodied men to fight, because you don't want to leave those guys at home. You want to take those guys to Greece to fight a war. Because if you leave them at home, they're going to overthrow your country, and it's not a good idea. So that's who these guys are. Their shields are just standard copper. That they don't have any particular. They're just normal Greek shields. They will carry a helmet, no armour. They won't be able to afford armour, and they use as light infantry anyway, so they're not going to have any armour. A few men might be able to put a few coin together to buy themselves a piece of armour, or maybe steal it off a dead body, but I should guess the Carians would get first dibs. So all I've done with the shields is just have them standard as it comes, without any cover, and they've just painted a K on to denote that they are Carian. What do you think?
Fair enough.
Yeah. The light infantry here, the skirmishers, the javelin troops, they're carrying the standard Greek equipment, which is a javelin, a loincloth, and a really, really rubbish target shield, which is just for self-defense. Again, painted black in the same way as the rest of the Carian army. And for the rest of the Carians, they're just kitted out. Sorry, the rest of the Leleges, they're just kitted out in the least amount of equipment possible. Yeah.
Yep.
I've even cut some of the swords off some of them, so they're only carrying the dory. Just to make them look good. So, questions?
Could you catch sheep?
Carrot sheet. Right, the carrier Zephos, when they're lucky, not all of them, but half of them do. Again, used for stabbing. So they would have trained with local hoplites. Each Carian hoplite was, of course, a citizen. They didn't have a professional army, but each individual hoplite would have Leleges under their command, in their household or living on their farm, whatever, and they would train the men to fight in the same way that they fight. So they would be trained to fight as normal hoplites, and they would be trained to fight with their master or their overlords. So each, just like with the Spartans, each Spartan would carry would bring 3 or 4 peasants with him. Just like with the Carians, they would bring 1 or 2 Leleges with them that they trusted or they didn't trust to leave behind. They're levy, so they suffer from a morale problem, but they are light infantry. Because they cast so light, all they have is their shield, they can actually deploy as light infantry. They can make evasive moves. And so it's very useful for the Carian army to have these fast-moving hoplites that they can use for flanking and things like that. So, on to questions.
So, to tell the difference from a Carian and a Ledger, they gave them bronze shields instead of black shields.
No, I've done that because I don't know. I honestly don't know the difference. I'm not sure how they would do it, but I just made the decision to... That's the Carian shield, which you will see in the other video that we did about the Carians, which is black with a white device on it, whereas the Carians themselves, the Leleges, I just gave them a bronze shield because I wouldn't imagine that they would be given much in the way to colour their shields. And also, individuality for people who are slaves is always a bad idea. Some Greeks would paint their shields in all sorts of different colours. That's fine, they own their shield. I'm not sure if these guys really own their shield. They'd really be pressed into service. And I wouldn't guess that there would be a huge amount of decorating their own shields going on. Because you don't want them to stand out. Unlike the Greeks, who did. So, any more questions?
So, last one.
Yeah.
So most of them would not have any armour.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, in a battle, they'd be the most useless soldiers ever. They wouldn't even run into battle because they don't want to get killed.
Yeah, which is what the Spartans found out when they didn't wear armour. There was a battle where they didn't wear armour against Athenian skirmish troops. So they took their armour off and they formed a shield wall, and the Athenians ran up to them and threw stones at them. And then the Spartans suddenly leapt out of their shield wall and chased the Athenians and hunted them down and killed them. Which really surprised the Athenian light infantry because they weren't expecting Spartans to not wear body armour. But then unfortunately a bunch of real Greek soldiers turned up and they slaughtered the Spartans because the Spartans had no armour. So it didn't really work out for them. The same actually happened when the Spartans were fighting against the Thebans. Same thing happened. They did the same. To fight the Theban light infantry, they took off their armour so they could outrun the Theban infantry, but the actual Theban infantry were able to kill them. It's a toss-up, really. So no, these guys carried no armour. I dare say a few might, as I said, have picked up some armour on the battlefield. Maybe they could raise a little bit of cash. Maybe their master, or the guy who owned their land, would let them use some old armour. I don't know. We don't know. So I would assume that they didn't, so all the troops have no armour on them.
That's useless. Most useless soldiers ever.
Well, mostly useless. I suppose it's really down to what you're using them for. Most of the time you weren't fighting huge battles in phalanxes. So most of the time the Carian infantry would be scouting local area to find bandits and stuff like that. Or it'd be on raiding parties. It's very seldom you would actually find yourself in a full shield wall fighting against another unit in full shield wall. And even if you were, the Carians wouldn't be sending these troops in to fight real hoplites. They would just be the troops that you deploy on your flank. Yeah?
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. So, let me know what you think about the Leleges. The poor guys who were conquered by the Carians and enslaved, and eventually became Carian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there we go.
If you like this video, hang on, I do a scam.
If you like this video, please leave a like.
And subscribe.
And comment down below
what you think of the Leleges.
Anything Leleges.
Is that everything from me?
And everything from him.
Yes.
Goodbye.
We're professionals.
Yes. Thank you for watching.